I still remember the way he looked at me that morning, cold, sharp, like I was something beneath his polished shoes. Damien Hale, the man I once admired, the man I worked day and night to impress, the man who destroyed me without a second thought. 3 years ago, I was the youngest analyst at Hale Industries, ambitious, loyal, and stupidly proud of the long hours I put in. I believed hard work spoke louder than words. But in that company, it wasn't hard work that mattered. It was power. And Damien owned it all. He was every woman's fantasy and every employee's fear. Tall, crisp suits, an emotionless face and a voice that could freeze a room. I used to think he was perfection, until he showed me what perfection without mercy looks like. That day, I was called into the boardroom. My hands were shaking, but not because I was nervous. I thought I was being promoted. I had led the company's biggest project that quarter. But when I walked in, the room was silent. The HR head, the legal officer, and Damien sat waiting. A file lay open before him, my name printed in bold on the first page. "Miss Rivera," he said, his voice steady, "do you have anything to say before I terminate your contract?" My heart stopped. "Terminate?" I repeated, barely understanding. "Sir, there must be a mistake." He slid a sheet across the table. "These are the emails you sent to our competitor, confidential data, trade documents. Do you deny it?" I looked at the papers. Fake, I knew instantly. Someone had used my login, but no one was listening. "Sir, please, I didn't send those. I would never." "Enough," he snapped. "You leaked information. You cost us millions. Get out." It felt like the air was sucked from the room. I could hear whispers from the other employees through the glass walls as I walked out. Some pitied me, others smirked. By noon, my badge was deactivated. By evening, the news had spread across the industry. Alana Rivera, the girl who betrayed Hale Industries. I remember standing outside the building, holding a box of my things, while it started to rain. I looked up at the giant H logo glowing above, and something in me broke quietly. I didn't cry that day. I just promised myself one thing. I'll make him remember my name. The next few years were not kind. No one wanted to hire a leaker. My savings vanished within months. I sold my jewelry, moved into a one-room apartment, and started freelancing for small firms. Every time I passed a corporate tower, my chest burned. I replayed his words again and again. Get out. But pain can either destroy you or sharpen you, and mine sharpened me. I began studying every business strategy book I could find. I learned how corporations moved, how deals were made, how power was built quietly. I started consulting for startups. One client led to another. My work became my armor. I built something from scratch, Rivera Consulting Group. In 3 years, my small firm grew beyond what I ever imagined. I hired people, real people who respected me. And the day I signed my first $1 million deal, I smiled for the first time in years. Not because of the money, but because I knew I no longer worked for people like Damien Hale. Or so I thought. When the email came, I nearly deleted it. Subject: partnership proposal. Hale Industries. I froze. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. But as I scrolled down, the reality hit. My company had been shortlisted for a major merger. The projects board wanted my company to leave the consulting side. And the client was Damien's empire. My fingers trembled, but my lips curved into a slow, quiet smile. Fate had a strange sense of humor.
At the meeting 2 weeks later, I wore a navy blue suit, the same color I used to wear back then, but this time with confidence. When I entered the boardroom, I could feel eyes turn. And then I saw him. Damien Hale, still sharp, still perfectly controlled, but older, harder around the edges. He was reading something on his tablet when the director introduced me. Mr. Hale, this is Miss Elena Rivera, CEO of Rivera Consulting Group. His head snapped up. For a fraction of a second, his mask cracked. His eyes widened slightly before he composed himself again. Elena, he said softly, it's been a while. I smiled. 3 years and 4 months, to be exact. A flicker of guilt crossed his face. Brief, but real. Yes, he said, clearing his throat. You've done well for yourself. I leaned forward, eyes locked on his. Yes, Mr. Hale, some mistakes make you stronger. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that carries history. And for the first time, I wasn't the one shrinking under his gaze. That day, as the meeting continued, I realized something. He wasn't the man who fired me anymore. He was the man who made me who I am now. And he was about to learn the meaning of his perfect mistake.
When the meeting ended, I could feel his gaze follow me as I walked out. It was the same boardroom where he'd once destroyed my name. But this time, I was the one they listened to. And he knew it. That night, I didn't sleep. The ghosts of my past had returned. And though I had built walls of success around myself, one look at Damien Hale had cracked them. Not because I still loved him, but because part of me still remembered the girl he broke. Over the next few weeks, our companies met frequently. Each meeting was a test of patience, of power, of self-control. He was careful now, respectful, even gentle. It was unnerving. One afternoon, after a particularly long negotiation session, he approached me as I gathered my files. Elena, he said quietly, can we talk privately? I hesitated. Everything in me screamed no, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. We stepped into the empty conference lounge. The city skyline stretched behind him, the same view I once stared at with tears in my eyes. He took a breath. I owe you an apology. I crossed my arms. 3 years late? I know. He admitted, lowering his gaze for the first time since I'd known him. I made a mistake, a big one. I believed what I was shown without verifying it. You didn't deserve that. His voice cracked slightly, but I didn't move. Mistake, I said, bitterness lacing my words. You didn't make a mistake, Damien. You made a choice. You chose to believe a lie because it was easier than believing in me. He flinched. I could see the guilt in his eyes. Real, raw guilt. Elena, I didn't just fire you. I ruined your reputation. I know that. And I can't undo it. But I've spent every day since then regretting it. I stared at him for a long moment, searching for manipulation, but there was none. Still, I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Why now? Why suddenly remember me when I'm useful again? His jaw tightened. Because I found out the truth. My breath caught. What truth? He stepped closer, pulling a file from his briefcase. The leak, it wasn't you. It was Matthew Gray. He framed you to cover his tracks. We discovered it after he confessed last year. I froze,
staring at the file in his hand, the one that could have saved me 3 years ago. "You found out last year?" I said slowly, my voice trembling. "And you're telling me now?" He swallowed hard. "I didn't know how to reach you. And maybe I didn't deserve to." The room felt smaller. My mind was racing. Anger, relief, disbelief, all colliding at once. I wanted to scream, but instead, I laughed. A hollow, bitter laugh. "Do you know what I went through, Damien?" I whispered. "You erased me. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't look my mother in the eyes. You didn't just ruin my career. You broke me." He looked shattered. "I know," he said. "And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." I turned to leave, but he called after me. "Elena, I never stopped thinking about you. About us." That word hit harder than I expected. Before everything happened, there had been moments between us. Quiet, unspoken moments. The way he lingered when he passed my desk. The rare smile that softened his coldness. The almost touch when he handed me files. We were never lovers, but we were close to something that could have been. I faced him. Don't. Don't make this about what could have been." He sighed. "You're right. But please, let me make amends. Let me help your company. Anything." I met his eyes. Calm. Controlled. "You can't buy forgiveness, Damien. You can only earn it. And I'm not sure you ever will." Then I walked out. And for the first time since that horrible day, he was the one left standing alone in silence. The next few weeks turned into a game of emotional chess. He was careful, overly so. I could see it in every word, every gesture. The powerful CEO was suddenly the one seeking approval. But I didn't humiliate him. I didn't need to. My presence was enough. Every time I led a meeting, every time his board praised my strategy, he realized what he'd lost. Not just a good employee, but someone who once believed in him completely. Still, part of me couldn't rest. Revenge didn't feel like victory. It felt heavy, unfinished. Because closure doesn't come from watching them suffer. It comes from finally letting go of the pain. One night, I sat alone in my office, staring at the skyline. My reflection stared back, calm, composed, unrecognizable from the girl who once stood in the rain outside Hale Industries. And I realized something. Maybe this entire time, I didn't come back for revenge. Maybe I came back to see if I'd healed. The next morning, Damien requested a final meeting. He said he wanted to close all accounts between us. I didn't know what he meant, but I agreed. When I walked into his office, he was already standing by the window, holding a brown envelope. I've transferred 20% of Hale Industries' consulting contract profit to Rivera Group as compensation. It's yours. You earned it. I looked at the envelope, then at him. This doesn't erase what happened. I know, he said softly. But it's a start. I stepped closer, my voice calm. No, Damien. The start isn't money. It's honesty. It's learning that people aren't disposable. It's admitting that even billionaires can be wrong. His eyes met mine, filled with something that almost looked like peace. And for the first time, he smiled. Not the cold, perfect smile from before, but a broken, human one. Elena, you were my perfect employee, my perfect regret, my perfect mistake. I didn't reply. I just noted, took the file, and left. But as I walked out of that glass tower, the same one where my life once fell apart, I realized he wasn't my enemy anymore. He was just another lesson that life had taught me.
It's strange how peace can feel heavier than anger. For years, I thought revenge would fix me, that watching him fall would heal the part of me he shattered. But when I finally had that power in my hands, all I felt was calm. Days passed after our last meeting. Hale Industries completed the merger, and Rivera Consulting rose higher than ever before. Every business magazine suddenly wanted my story, the woman who outsmarted the billionaire who fired her. They painted me as the Avenger, the comeback queen. But behind every headline, I stayed quiet, because they didn't know that the real victory wasn't revenge, it was release. A week after the deal closed, I received an envelope at my office. No sender name, just one line in familiar handwriting. For the words I never said. Inside, there was a letter. Damien's. It was short, painfully honest. Elena, there isn't a day I don't think about that morning. The way you looked at me, trying to explain, while I looked away. You were right. I didn't make a mistake. I made a choice. A cowardly one. And that choice cost me the one person who ever saw more in me than power. You've become everything I once pretended to be. Strong, respected, free. If I could go back, I'd believe you the first time you said I didn't do it. But I can't. So I'll live with that. You don't owe me forgiveness. But I hope life gives you everything I couldn't. Damien. For a long time, I just stared at the letter. No tears, no anger, just silence, the kind that feels like truth. I folded it, placed it in my drawer, and whispered to no one, "You already gave me what I needed. Closure." 2 months later, I was invited to speak at a women's leadership event, From Failure to Freedom. Standing on that stage, under the warm lights, I looked at the sea of faces, young women with dreams, fears, and fire in their eyes, and I told them my story. I didn't name him. I didn't need to. I just said this. Sometimes life takes everything from you, your job, your trust, your name, and sometimes it gives you something better, the chance to rebuild yourself from the ground up. I thought revenge would heal me. It didn't. Forgiveness did. Not for him, but for me. Because when you forgive, you take your power back. You stop letting their mistake define your worth. The audience was silent. Then the applause began. Soft at first, then thunderous. And in that moment, I realized I had finally won.
It happens months later. Pure coincidence. I was at an airport lounge heading for a business trip when I saw him again. Damien Hale. He looked different. Not broken, but humbled, simpler. He caught my gaze and smiled faintly, as if unsure whether to approach. I nodded politely, and he took it as permission. "Elena," he said, voice quieter than I remembered. "You look happy." "I am," I said truthfully. He hesitated, then offered a handshake. "I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" I asked. "For proving that I was wrong, and that people can change, if they choose to learn." I smiled softly. "Then maybe we both learned something." He nodded slowly, his eyes soft. "Goodbye, Elena." "Goodbye, Damien." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. And just like that, the chapter closed, not with drama, not with revenge, but with peace.